Hello everyone and welcome to the latest episode of Book Time with Elvis with me, Mark. And today's Tuesday, and as I want to follow the rules, I will of course do a tag. And the tag I've chosen to do, I was technically tagged in, and so were all of you. And that's the U tag by Jim at Jim's Books, Reading and Stuff. And so yeah, let's jump right in. These are, of course, full of prompts, all to do with the letter U. The first one is U is for unicorn. What's your favourite fantasy creature? My favourite fantasy creature would be the vampire, I suppose. I think there's something rather mysterious about them. I like the whole thing to do with their immortality and the idea that they are, really old, ancient beings, and I always love the vampires that have been around the longest. Yeah, that fascinates me. I think it's in a series that I will mention later in this tag, but I remember reading a book that had vampires in it, and the kind of head of the vampires was really ancient. I think they went back to like prehistoric times, so whether they were Neanderthal or something like that, it was it was fascinating. I excuse me, I'm not a horror fan, not really, although I have read a bit, I suppose, but definitely vampires. U is for the USA. If you are from the US, which state are you living in, and what is special about that state? I'm not from the US, but I was lucky to visit there a lot during my youth. I spent a lot of time in places like California, Nevada, Florida, Georgia, the American one, of course, not Jim's one, as well as various places in New England. So I would take the region of New England as perhaps my favourite area. Now, all the others have wonderful things, but what I really like about New England is the weather. So that would be anywhere like Connecticut, Maine, Rhode Island, Vermont, Massachusetts, New Hampshire, if I haven't said it. I think there's about 6 included in there. And it's not because I'm from Old England, or maybe it is, but I think the climate suits me. I like always the way it looks in autumn or fall. And I kind of like the idea of living somewhere on the coast there, like in Murder, She Wrote, in Cabot Cove and that kind of place. It always appeals to me. If you're outside of the US, which state would you like to visit and why? Well, I would like to visit a couple of places. First off, I would have to visit the state of Ohio, because I have a very dear friend who lives there. And that, of course, is Summer at Cozy Reading Quaker Cats. We've become very friendly since we did our buddy read, and I think it would be kind of fun to meet up with her. And I don't know anything about Ohio, so I'm sure she could show me around. In fact, there are many booktubers as well that I would like to, get the chance to meet in America and go book shopping and that kind of thing, but also to learn a bit about the parts they're from. The Pacific Northwest intrigues me. I'd very much like to visit Washington State. I have a few friends who are from there and live there that I knew when I was living in Japan. And the same with Oregon, I think. I would really like to visit that Powell's bookshop, is it? Or Powell's bookstore, which apparently is pretty amazing, which I think is in Portland, in Oregon. Next, U is for USA and USSR. Do you have a favourite book about the Cold War? Yes, I have a lot of favourite books about the Cold War because I love the Cold War. I find it fascinating. Actually, I love, there's a podcast I listen to called Cold War Conversations, which is really great. And if you have any interest in that, I thoroughly recommend you check out Cold War Conversations. One I particularly like is the autobiography of Oleg Gordievsky, and that's called Next Stop Execution. And it's about one of the biggest KGB spies, double agents, who was actually spying for the British, and he defected to Britain in the 80s, I think it was mid-80s, and it was a very, very thrilling escape from the Soviet Union for him, because he came pretty close to being unmasked, and basically, as it says, next stop execution. Another one I read recently, which is the Checkmate in Berlin by Giles Milton. I thought that was fantastic. That's like the really early days of the Cold War and the partitioning and sectioning off of Berlin immediately after the Second World War. If I'm going for fiction, then it would have to be the George Smiley series. I could have said the Carla series, but that only includes 3 books. George Smiley, I believe, appears in at least 8, maybe more, though he's not always a major character. So that could be anything from A Spy Who Came In From the Cold, of course, the Carla books, of which I've yet to read the last one, Smiley's People. But I find these fascinating. I just love the way that it's quite understated, when it's a nice antidote to like James Bond and maybe some of the, forgive me for saying so, kind of more American ones where they're more like kind of super action heroes rather than this kind of short, fat, slow-moving George Smiley. There's a kind of more realistic element to those books for me, so I really enjoy those. U is for Uruguay, Uganda, UAE, Ukraine, Uzbekistan and Upper Volta, now known as Burkina Faso. Have you read any books connected with these countries? Jim, I'm disgusted that you haven't included the United Kingdom in your UTAG, because of course then I could say I've read a load of books, at least connected with that one country. But I have read a few. I read The Last King of Scotland many years ago by Giles Fodden, which follows the relationship between a Scottish doctor and the Ugandan dictator Idi Amin. I believe it was made into a film a few years later. And I read one, must be a year, 2 years ago, maybe more, which is a travel book called Beyond Dubai, Seeking Lost Cities in the Emirates by David Miller. And that was actually really interesting because I didn't have any interest at first in reading it because I don't really care for, the UAE or Dubai, purely because I think there wouldn't be much in terms of history there for me. But actually it was entertaining and it was informative, so I really enjoyed that. And I think off the top of my head that's it, though there may be others. Next, U is for underwater. What's your favourite book set underwater? Well, at first I could only think of Jules Verne's 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea, which of course is very good. Then I remembered Tom Clancy, who I could have actually put in the Cold War part as well, but Tom Clancy's Hunt for Red October, which was excellent. And then following, if you're not aware of the story or seen the film, it's about the US Navy following a renegade Russian nuclear submarine, and they want to know whether the captain's intentions are to go renegade and launch an attack or to defect, perhaps. And the ones I really like, which I've read, I think 3 in the series, and there may be 5 or 6, and they're by an author called David Black, and it's the Harry Gilmore series. And they're books like Going to Sea in a Bucket and Skipper's Dogs Called Stalin. And these are really good. These are Second World War books set in British submarines. Actually, I think they're not all British, but Harry Gilmore kind of moves around. But they are excellent if you like any kind of nautical or war kind of adventure. And the Submariner life, is crazy. I guess Das Boot as well, I suppose. I did read that years ago with some friends from school. That just came to me. Next, U is for Umbrella. What is a good book for a rainy day? It's very difficult to come up with one. For me, it would have to just be some kind of mystery, thriller, historical fiction. A good Con Eagledon book or Bernard Cornwell or something like that. Maybe a nice cozy mystery like Tarquin Hall's Vishpuri, Indian detective mysteries are fantastic. Gary Colby's what's his name? Ancient Greek mysteries. Pericles Commission's the first one. David Wishart's Marcus. Oh, gosh. Marcus Corvinus mysteries are also fantastic. Anything like that. I read recently in my last video, I talked about the Birds by Daphne du Maurier, The Birds and Other Stories, and I've read the next 2 stories in that. So there's 6 stories in general, and I've in total rather, and I've read the first 3 now, and they're fantastic actually, and they're perfect for these kind of dark autumn afternoons to read one of these stories. A day, which I've been doing so far, which has been great. Next, U is for urban fantasy. Have you read any urban fantasy? Do you have a favorite book in this subgenre? I think this counts as urban fantasy, and this is the Night Watch series by Sergei Lukianenko. I've mentioned it a couple of times. I think it's fantastic. It's a kind of, it is a fantasy. It's urban in the fact that most of the books are set in cities, including primarily rather Moscow. I think also appears in Edinburgh and Prague as well in later books. But I never see them around. I mean, maybe they're too old now, I don't know, or maybe people don't like them, but I think they're fantastic. All these people talk about these fantasy books. I'm like, yeah, but this series is great. It's all about this agreement between, in fact, that's the one I mentioned with the vampire who was probably a Neanderthal or something like this. It's about the idea that there's this kind of force that governs everything. It's called the Twilight. It's weird. The world exists on like 6 or 7 different levels, and these people called the others. There's good others, light others and dark others. The dark ones follow, kind of more evil and dark paths, and the light ones follow light. And they had, of course, for centuries, war, and then I don't know, like 1,000 years ago, they made a truce, and they have these kind of ministries where the light ones regulate what the dark ones do, and vice versa. And then they're always undermining each other and this kind of stuff. Excuse me, I think Elvis is going to be sick, so sorry, 1 second. Gosh, I'm sorry about that. It's not usual that Elvis will, disrupt. Bless him. But yeah, I don't know whether he ate too fast. He was really stuffing his face not that long ago. So I think he just ate too fast, and unfortunately it reappeared. I'm sure you really needed to know that, but there you go. So yeah, it's a fantastic book. Are you okay? Oh. I don't know if you can see him. Oh, poor Elvis. Yeah, so you can all send him some sympathy, but I'm sure it's his own doing, bless him. So I would completely recommend it. It's a fantastic series, and I think it really fits this idea of urban fantasy. Next, U is for Ulysses. What does Ulysses mean for you in your reading life? I'm sorry to say nothing. I couldn't get on with it. But it's many years. I mean, I was in the last year of school, so I was about 17, 18 when I tried to read it, and perhaps it's due revisiting, but it wasn't for me. And to say nothing of Finnegan's Wake, which I also attempted, and certainly didn't get along with. But who knows? Maybe now I'm older and sorry, he's just belching away there. I do apologise. I could just stop it, of course, and record it again, but I'm just too busy. What was I going to say? Yeah, so nothing really to me. U is for unread. Roughly what percentage of books on your shelves remain unread? If it's just taking my physical books on the shelf, I would say it's around 50, 55, maybe 60%, not more, on my shelves. If I'm talking about ebooks as well, and including it, I would have to say it's over 85% probably have been unread, because I have a ton of ebooks. There's some bonus prompts. Which of the following authors most appeal to you? Leon Uris, Umberto Eco, Ursula K. Le Guin. I haven't read any Le Guin. I haven't read any Uris, I think, apart from... did he write Exodus? Maybe he did. In which case, I seem to vaguely remember reading it on holiday many, many years ago. So I would go with Umberto Eco. I mean, I'm fallen very behind reading The Name of the Rose, but I'm still going through it, and I'm enjoying it. I like it. I think it's interesting. I read a book by him, Badolino, many years ago. I think that's the name, and Prague Cemetery as well. So I think, Echo is okay. U is for UFO. Have you seen a UFO? I don't know. I've seen flying objects that I wasn't sure were aircraft, but they could have been satellites or any kind of celestial body or something like that. Have you enjoyed a book exploring the first contact with aliens? No, I don't know. I don't read a lot of that kind of those kind of books. Really, I may have read something. I can't remember if I read Contact by Carl Sagan, or whether it's just I'm thinking of the film. I thought the film was alright, at least. I remember definitely I watched the film, but I can't remember if I decided to read the book after. But it doesn't matter. And then U is for upcoming. What book release are you looking forward to? I don't really keep my fingers on the pulse of book news as much as I should do. I couldn't tell you exactly what books are coming out soon that I'm looking forward to, but I can tell you, for example, there are some authors that I really look forward to new releases from, and I don't always know when they're coming. It just kind of surprises me. So authors such as C.J. Sansom, who wrote the Matthew Shardlake series, fantastic Tudor historical fiction series. Unfortunately, sadly, I heard he's very ill, so it looks unlikely that he might release any more books. Giles Milton's a favourite of mine. He writes mostly historical narratives, and I will always pick up a book by him. And Robert Harris is another one. Although I haven't read his latest offering, I can't remember, something like The Second Sleep. I haven't read that yet, but he's certainly someone I would look to read if I found out they had a new book out. And there are probably many others as well, but that's all I can think of. Well, I'll follow in Jim's vein and tag you. So, of course, those of you watching it who would like to do it, give it a go. It's a bit of fun. Why not? Thank you very much for watching. Sorry again about Elvis. But, these things can't be helped. I'm sure many of you have pets, and just sometimes it happens from time to time. He's absolutely fine, though, don't worry. He's, prone to this, but he's finding himself. It is just literally a case of wolfing down his food probably too quickly. And we'll be going out soon. All right, thank you, everybody. Take care, and look forward to seeing you all again soon. All the best. Bye-bye.